Alright guys, welcome back to the second part of the kind of like tower climber walkthrough. Um we're gonna be adding some more stuff today. I have like a small list of things that I plan to do right now in this session. I just want the video to be like a complete walkthrough of like the steps and the thinking I take to like create Roblox games, just so you guys can see like the actual um process that usually takes to make like the games on Roblox. And so the first thing I wanted to do was like make the player go back to the lobby um once they finish the obstacle course. And I'll have like a link with the game design document and the starter file so you guys can, you know, uh go through whatever place you are in the series and still be able to like get to whatever video or edits we might be making. And so in the game design document, I said that I wanted it to be like a race between all the players where if one person finishes the obstacle course, it kind of just ends the whole round there. Um, and so we have to know like when a player has finished the obstacle course, right? And so we have a signal that is fired when the round state has ended, um, and specifically we know when the in-game round state has ended. And so we could fire a connection here to tell all the players currently in the obstacle course to um, go back to like some sort of lobby. But let's actually look at the obstacle handler module and see if we could do something there, because we don't want the players. This connection signal is kind of like fired after um, everything has been handled, and so we want to teleport the players before um, the round has ended. Like, so for example, actually no, we probably want the players to get teleported after the round has ended. And so yeah, it'd probably be okay to teleport other players in this function. And we could do that through the. Sorry for the like fire truck in the background. Just gonna wait for it to go past. Sorry for the like music outside too. I don't know who's playing it, but anyway, we could go into the obstacle handler and teleport players. Um, so we already have this function in here, and basically, when we could just teleport the players to the first obstacle. But if we think about the nature of the event, it's not really a part of the obstacle handler, right? Maybe it's more a part of the round handler where you're teleporting players back to a certain place based on the round. But at the same time, it needs to be triggered by the obstacle handler because we know that once a player hits the last exit zone, um, which we could figure out by looking through this code real quick. So we have create obstacle zone, get obstacle new C frame. We have create exit zone. Okay, so in this function to create the exit zone, we have the exit part, we have the obstacle exit zone, we have if not last obstacle. So if this is not the last obstacle, then all you want to do is send the player to the next obstacle. But if it is the last obstacle, what you want to do is when the player enters it, all you want to do is give them coins if they have the coins, and increment the player data so that they have one win, and they have more coins, and you add it to this function that the player has finished the obstacle course. And so we might want to add just another. We just want to like maybe fire a remote event to tell all players that the game has ended. Um, and yeah, I think we could do that simply by writing signal.net, or not signal because it's going to specifically be a remote. So let's get the remote event that's going to teleport our players, right? So I'm not sure exactly how all this stuff is going to work, but if we think about it, do we want to have it a part of the obstacle handler, the round handler, or the server, right? All we're trying to do is teleport to the players to the all the players to the lobby once the round has ended, and that's triggered. The round ends when a player has finished the obstacle course. So they're not exactly the same. When a finished player's obstacle course, we don't want to just teleport all the players because that's not why it's directly triggered by. It gets triggered by when the round ends. And so I think it's a safe bet to say that we can write a remote event here that when the round state in the game has ended, we want to teleport all players back to the lobby before we clean up the actual obstacles because the players will probably be on them. Um, and before we update the round state for the intermission. And so let's do that. So we need to get the remotes function because that's where all the remotes are. So local remotes is equal to shared dot remotes, right? And if we look at the remotes here, are specifically our send teleport. Start timer. So all we need to do is say remotes.service.get and name of the remote event. So if we go to our remotes real quick, we have a teleport to C frame event. That's just going to send a C frame to the client. Let's just make sure of that. Let's just make sure that's the case. So if we go to our starter player, then start player scripts, then we go to client, you can see that when we connect it, we're getting a C frame that we want the client to teleport to. And you might be wondering why do teleport the client on the client instead of the server, but the point is that we want to make the server do less work as possible, so that the game could be as smooth as possible. And since the player's position is already replicated from the client to the server, just changing it on the client is going to be much more performant than doing it on the server, especially when we're already validating the position that we want the client to teleport to. Um, and this is probably like hackable, exploitable, but we're gonna get into like making our game exploit safe later down the line. And so here we could just do remotes dot server because that's how we get the server remotes, and we get. Oop, just want to make sure. Yep. We say get, and we just want to put the remote name, and then we want to send to all players. I'm pretty sure. Yep, we want to send to all players. Send to all players. And we have the C frame that we want. We need the C frame, right? That we want to send to all the players. And so if we go to the workspace real quick, we have multiple parts that are named something specific. Like this is the intermission zone. This is the origin for all the obstacles where it'll spawn. So let's just simply create a part. Let's make it behind here. Let's call it the lobby spawn, or let's just say lobby origin, right? Let's make it can collide false, can't touch true. Let's make it anchored, and we can just go to our our server, and all we have to do is name this private variables, and then say local lobby origin part is equal to workspace dot lobby origin. And then all we have to do is say lobby origin dot cframe. And now on the client, it's automatically gonna teleport us to that C-frame when we end the round. And so let's spawn in and test it out. So when we're in the intermission zone, it's counting down, and okay, that's a lot of spawns right now. So we don't want to test the whole obby right now. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna in the obstacle handler uh, just comment out these two. Okay, so now there's only going to be 2 obstacle courses that spawn, because that controls how many obstacles that of each that we're going to spawn. And so if we make it to the end here, boom, we touch the exit part. If we go to the end of the obstacle, oh, it's not working. This is interesting. This is probably because okay, yep, I guessed it correct. So when we put the event in the server to teleport all the players when the round ends, the round doesn't end when the player touches the part. It specifically ends only when the timer for that specific round ends. So you see the round time equals get round that timer, and then it just simply waits, and then it says state ended, which fires this signal event which we're listening to. And so we didn't actually hook it up so where that when the player finishes the round here, or where is it? Oh, right here, we haven't made it so that it ends the round automatically. And so we should do that. So to make testing easier, I'm just going to make this one obstacle. So we just have to complete one obstacle. And then I'm also going to, oh, that's all I was going to do. And so we want to make it so that this event is going to trigger the round handler to stop waiting for the timer. And so right now, this is kind of difficult to do since we have this separate thread. Let's just call it thread. I don't want to get into all that complicated details, but we just have this separate thread that's running this task.wait, and it's going to simply just wait until the time has passed, and then it'll call the function. And it does not going to consider whether or not a player might have finished the round before that time. And so we gotta have a way where it's going to wait this time or until it's gonna wait this time, but it'll stop until there's a player that finished the round. And so this actually isn't too simple. I mean, too hard to do. What we could do is we could repeat task that wait 1 second, right? And then it'll check whether or not like a player has finished the round. And we could simply just do that by having a signal in here. And so let's call this signal connections right here. Signal connections, right? And let's remind ourselves how to create a signal connection. So all we got to do is signal.net.connect signal, the name of the signal, and the function. So we just do signalnet dot connect signal, and this is going to be round ended. Oop. Oh, I can't type. Round ended, and then we have a function that's gonna fire when the round ends, and that's simply going to change the variable here. So let's create a variable and let's call it. Well, actually, we don't have to call it round ended. We could just say player reached end. I want to make this a better name. That's kind of long and confusing. Um, Player reached end of obstacle. No, that's kind of like. Okay, so player finished obstacles. Player finished obstacles. Let's name it that. Player. Oh man, why can't I type? Player finished obstacles. And we can just make a variable here, a private variable, local player. Oh, player finished obstacles. And let's set it to false for now, right? And so now it's just gonna say repeat. Or actually, we don't want to do a repeat until we just want to do a for I equals round time, right? We want to go up by 1. Well, actually, we want I to equal to 1, and then we want the goal to be round time, because that's how for loops work. And then we want to go up by 1, do, and we want to check if round player reached end of round. then we just simply want to break the for loop. If the player reached the round, then break the for loop. Else, all you want to do is task.wait1. And so what that does basically is um, that's just going to wait 1 second until the round time, but every second it's going to check whether or not the player finished the obstacle. If the player finished the obstacle before the round time, it just simply breaks the for loop. It doesn't continue waiting 1 second until round time, and it just ends the state there. And so we can prove this by just simply, oh, and then I forgot that we need to actually make this true when we fire the signal, and then inside the obstacle handler we need to fire that signal. So signal net dot fire signal. Oop, what was the name of it? Okay, so the name was player finished obstacles. And so we're just gonna fire this signal. And all it's simply gonna do is let the round handler know that a player finished the obstacle, so you should end the state in a second. And so if we play this and we go into the intermission zone, we should get teleported. There's only one obstacle because we changed the number there. And now when we exit, 1 second's gonna pass. Oh, and it looks like the computer is lagging. Okay, so we actually have a huge error here. Okay, so this is really weird. Alright, so let's try to understand what's going on. It says maximum event reentrancy depth exceeded for script context. And so I think there just simply might be a error here. So I'm guessing that when we fire this signal, right, it waits a second because it didn't automatically error. We saw that there was like a small wait, so we know that it's waiting a second here, and we do know it's ending the state. Um, and when it ends the state, we're teleporting the player to this C frame, and so I'm actually not sure exactly, but I know that there's clearly an error here. So what we could do is let's just print it out. And so we know this is working for sure because after a second when we exited, the error started happening. And so let's just add a print. And we do know that this is also working where it's telling the round handler that the state ended because we're just firing a signal, and so that's okay also. So if we know that this is working, the error might be actually here. Um, I think it might be that because in this obstacle, or in the obstacle zone, right? I created an event that said whenever the player exited, teleport the player back, right? And the obstacle zone still exists because we only clean up the obstacle after we teleport the player. So um, if we press print, if we enter print teleport the player to the lobby origin, and then we do um, task.wait. Excuse me. Let's just wait 10 seconds to make it clear. Well, let's make it 5 to make it clear. We can see that the player should teleport, and then they should teleport back, and then the round should clean up. So let's just test this again. Let's wait for the intermission zone. Alright, let's finish the obstacle real quick. This should be easy. Alright, yep. So we saw that it waited a second, and then it teleported the player for a second. It teleported the player back to the this part, the lobby origin part. But because there was a event, it sent the player back to the origin. But we can confirm that that's not the issue, because we still had this error here after 5 seconds. So there's something erroring here. Something up. I think it has to do with this cleanup round function, because after 5 seconds it started doing all these errors. And so let's go into the obstacle handler, and let's go to that specific function, cleanup round. And in the cleanup round, it's just cleaning up the obstacle data and the obstacles. So if we go to clean up obstacles, all it's doing is it's destroying zones, and it's making these data for the obstacles nil and empty. So what we could do is you could figure out why this is happening. So we can just print zone destroyed. So we know that's working. So I still put the wait so that it doesn't completely lag the game. Okay, we just go like this. Finish the obby. 1 second, and then it's gonna wait a little bit, and then it has all these errors. Okay, so this is why I love waits, because they can give you an idea of what's happening. So you can see that after 5 seconds, it clearly fired this function, and for some reason I can't see the print. I think it's just because there's so many errors that it just doesn't show up. But it should be firing this. So just to make sure that it is firing it, I'm just gonna write print called function. And we should see that it should try to clean up the obstacles after 5 seconds, or print that. So we touched it. After 5 seconds, we should see called cleanup and then a bunch of errors. So it looks like it's lagging, and then we have a bunch of errors. Okay. So this is what I will do. I will simply just we don't need this weight anymore. We're simply going to add a weight here. Task dot weight. 1 second, just so that we can see it to make sure it gets called. And then right before um, we destroy a zone, what we're gonna do is say task.wait, and you should destroy the zone, and then it should print zone destroyed. So if we finish this obstacle one more time, you should have a better idea on like what's actually going on. Um, okay, so we called the function, we destroyed the zone, we destroyed two zones, and we're getting a bunch of lags. Okay, so everything is firing, but it looks like it looks like it's sort of like because we could see that it destroyed the zones, right? But it kind of like teleported the player twice. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It like destroyed the zone, and then it teleported the player again right after it teleported it. I mean, destroyed it. Okay, and then destroys it. Yeah, and it kind of just like teleported the player again. So it looked like that maybe we're not cleaning up our events properly in the obstacle handler. We actually also don't know where this error is coming from. We just know that um so when all else fails, I think it's easier just to simply search up like what's going on. Like let's take out these prints so we don't have like weird prints all over the place. Okay. Make sure that there's no prints down here. Okay. So let me search this up and see what. Okay. I'm going to scripting helpers right now. So it looks like there might be a recursive function. So something is calling, then firing, then calling, then firing, then calling, then firing, then calling, then firing, multiple times. So it looks like something is triggering itself. That's very interesting. Um, so how can I know what is exactly triggering itself? That's kind of confusing. Huh. So I definitely feel like it has to do with the zones being destroyed. Um, so what I could do is okay. Wait, so uh let's see if this was working beforehand. So before we made all these edits, let's see if this was working. So we only changed this. All of that was the same before, and all of that was working. So let's just test it out and see if it was working beforehand. Um, we're just kind of waiting for the round to finish because it's 30 seconds, and we should see that after 30 seconds, it should just delete everything with no issues. Yep, it just deletes everything with no issues, and so and it even teleports the player specifically after the round ends. So there's something about um, there's something about um, this player finish obstacles thing. You know what I think is going on? I think what's going on is that in the round handler, it's not like um, this is actually really confusing. I have no idea like what's going on. It's like simply waiting for the player to finish the obstacle, and oh, I think I understand why. So it says if the player finished the obstacles, then break. So what's happening is that after the player finishes the round, every single round afterwards, what's happening is that it's continuously running. So it's continuously starting the state, then it's getting all this info, then it's checking if the player finished the round, then it's ending the state, and it's continuously ending the state simply because the player finished the obstacle. And so that was an error on my part because this state start timer starts the timer for any state. So if the player finished the obstacle course, it's just gonna break regardless if this is the intermission state or the in-game state. And so what we need to do is after we break, we simply need to say if player finished obstacle is equal to false. And of course we can't have that before break. And now when it checks it for the intermission zone, the player finished the obstacle will not be true, and so it continues to wait. And so if we uh, turn this back on, or just uncomment it, turn it back on, when we finish the round, it shouldn't continuously be starting and ending the state like within milliseconds, which is causing the re-entrance death problem. So we see that, yep, it cleans up the obstacles, and it just teleports us here, and then it's gonna start the timer for the new state. And so that's just an error on my part. I completely forgot that wasn't controlling specifically the end state for the in-game, but for all states within the store. And so we just simply needed to set this back to false once we knew that the player finished the obstacle. And so, yep, that's how we teleported the player back to a certain position, which we're gonna say is the lobby position once they ended the round. So thanks guys for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about Redux stores and just more like the thinking that goes behind coding. So we saw how to problem solve and how to break down different challenges. We saw how to best put remotes. Um, using like a very modular system. We saw that all I had to do was fire a signal to let another module know that a player finished the obstacle course, the state handler, to end the state. And once that state ended, the server already gets a callback function basically, or like a signal letting the server know to just teleport all the players back. You see how, so you basically see how like all this communication works, and it makes like creating games really easy with the system I introduced. I think the 7 essential tools for Roblox development. Really check out that video. I'm using those systems right now as we speak. Um, the remotes I'm using, if you see the remotes, that's from Net's RBX Net. If you go to replicated storage, all I did was wrap it in a function in a module that gets net, and so you're just returning these remotes basically, but it's using net under the hood. And so I really recommend you use these tools, and I hope you guys learn a lot from just coding with this like modular thinking. You could do really, really like not hard things, but really like complex things. Because like think about it, we had a lot of things going on. We had to know when the player exited the zone, specifically when it was the last obstacle. We had to let the round handler know that to end the round because a player finished the obstacle. And then somehow the server needed to know that they need to teleport all the players when the round ends. And so you can see how like this like we just had what, how many lines of code? We had one line of code here just to let teleport all the players. We had another one line of code to just let the round handler know that the round should end. And then we simply had like 4 lines of code just to check every second whether or not a player finished the round. And so, yeah, I urge you guys to simply go through the videos that I'm gonna post in this series and learn how to think about how to code, because that's very important if you want to make a game that's gonna be on the Roblox front page and things like that. So yeah, thanks for watching the video.